Welcome to History in Memes, where we explain the stories behind your favorite history memes. This is today's meme, sent in by Marcus Spencer. Today, we'll look at the Berserker at Stamford Bridge and the man literally too angry to die. In January 1066, King Edward the Confessor of England died, triggering a succession struggle in which a variety of contenders from across Europe vied for the English throne. These claimants included the King of Norway, Harald Hardrada. Under Harald, the Norwegians assembled a fleet of 300 ships with which to invade England. The Norwegian army likely numbered between 7,000 and 9,000 men. Arriving off the English coast in September, Hardrada would have been joined by forces recruited in Flanders and Scotland by Tostig Godwinson. Tostig was at odds with his elder brother Harold, who had been crowned King of England. Having been ousted from his position as Earl of Northumbria and exiled in 1065, Tostig had mounted a series of abortive attacks on England in the spring of 1066. In the summer of 1066, the invaders began to advance on York. On the 20th of September, they defeated an English army led by Edwin, Earl of Mercia, and his brother Morcar. Following this victory, they received the surrender of York. Having briefly occupied the city and taken hostages as well as supplies, they returned toward their ships. They offered peace to the Northumbrians in exchange for their support for Haradra's bid for the throne, and demanded further hostages from the whole of Yorkshire. When this was all happening, King Harold was in southern England, preparing for an invasion from France by William, the Duke of Normandy, yet another contender for the English throne. Learning of the Norwegian invasion, he headed north with great haste, traveling day and night. He made the journey from London to Yorkshire, a distance of about 185 miles, in only 4 days. This enabled Harold to take the Norwegians completely by surprise. Having learned that the Northumbrians had been ordered to send additional hostages and supplies to the Norwegians at Stamford Bridge, Harold hurried on through York to attack them at this rendezvous on the 25th of September. Until the English army came into view, the Norwegians remained unaware of the presence of a hostile army anywhere in their vicinity. The exact location of the Stamford Bridge battlefield is not known. However, local tradition places the battlefield east of the River Derwent and just southeast of the town in an area known as Battle Flats. The location of the Norwegian army at the start of the battle is unclear. However, a common view is that the Norwegians were divided in two, with some of their troops on the west side of the River Derwent and the bulk of their army on the east side. The English vanguard smashed into the Norwegians on the west bank. By the time the majority of the English army had arrived, the Norwegians on the west side were either slain or fleeing across the bridge. However, the English advance was then delayed by the need to pass through the choke point presented by the bridge itself. The story goes that a giant Norse axeman blocked the narrow crossing and single-handedly held up the entire English army. The story is that this axeman cut up to 40 Englishmen and was defeated only when an English soldier floated under the bridge and thrust his spear through the planks, mortally wounding the axeman. The delay at the bridge allowed the majority of the Norse army to form a shield wall to face the English attack. As Harold's army poured across the bridge, they formed a line just short of the Norwegian army before they locked shields and charged. After a fierce hand-to-hand struggle, the Norwegian army began to fragment and fracture, allowing the English troops to force their way in and break up the Scandinavian shield wall. Completely outflanked, and with Haradra killed with an arrow to his windpipe and Tostig slain, the Norwegian army disintegrated and was virtually annihilated. In the later stages of the battle, the Norwegians were reinforced by troops who had been guarding their ships at the coast. These men rushed to the battlefield in full armor, and many were said to have collapsed and died of exhaustion. The remainder, however, were fully armed and prepared for battle. Their counterattack briefly checked the English advance, but was soon overwhelmed. The Norwegian army was truly routed. So many had died in an area so small that the field was said to have been still whitened with bleached bones 50 years after the battle. King Harold accepted a truce with the surviving Norwegians. They were allowed to leave after giving their pledges not to attack England ever again. The losses they suffered were so severe that only 24 ships from their original fleet of 300 were needed to carry their survivors home. Harold's victory was short-lived. 3 days after the battle, on the 28th of September, a second invasion, led by William, Duke of Normandy, landed in Sussex on the south coast of England. Harold had to immediately turn around his exhausted troops and force-march them southwards to intercept the invading Norman army, and less than 3 weeks after Stamford Bridge, the English army was decisively defeated, and King Harold fell at the Battle of Hastings. While countless epic tales of the battle at Stamford Bridge have surely been lost to history, the story of the Berserker on the bridge remains history that truly transcends the memes. If you enjoyed this video, follow at Educational History Memes on Instagram, where every day I post history memes with in-depth historical captions.